Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Logan Talk Sports. I'm Logan, and today I have a big episode planned with a lot of World Cup knockout stage stuff and some AFC South record predictions. So let's get into it. So, starting with the World Cup, I remember with the group stage just last episode, I went over my predictions on who would win each group and who would advance out of each group. And I got a lot of stuff wrong, I got a lot of stuff right. Group A, the first one, is something I definitely got wrong. I had South Africa getting last in this group, and they ended up getting second and being one of the only two teams advancing out of here. Um, yeah, I thought they were by far the worst team in this group, honestly. I thought maybe they could compete with Czechia, and they definitely could. So I was happy about it. I was happy to be wrong. Um, just because I like seeing unpredictable stuff happening. And so that was cool to see. I was a little sad, though, about South Korea not going through from the group stage. They were obviously fighting for it and were one of the last teams eliminated, but eventually just not able to sneak through. And then Mexico, pretty obviously, they were going to win this group. They're by far the best team in this group. And so I was definitely not shocked to see them win this group at all. And so, yeah, pretty easy group still. I wasn't too far off, in my opinion, just because really you just slot South Africa up 2 slots, and I was right on the others where they're placed a little bit. And then moving to Group B, I was actually perfect on this group. Switzerland ended up taking the lead in this group on the very last day. I had them winning this group, so I was pretty happy about that. I do think it's kind of funny Canada doesn't get to play any more games in Canada. Yeah, while the U.S. and Mexico still get to. And then, yeah, I just thought Switzerland was the best team in here. Still glad to see Canada go through. They play today as this episode's coming out. So we'll get into that game a little bit later in this episode. And then I was very happy to see Bosnia go through. They're playing the U.S., which, again, I'll get to that later. They really impressed me. They ended up drawing Canada in their first game and then just really looked like a tough team to beat. And so I'm very glad that they ended up going through with 4 points. And then, yeah, Qatar, nobody thought they were going to really go through. I was glad to see them get a point just because they were so bad when they hosted 4 years ago. So I was very glad to see them finally get a point, but definitely not surprised to see them go. And then Group C, I was, again, perfect on. This group, though, I feel like was pretty obvious. You had Brazil, Morocco, and then big drop-off to Scotland and Haiti. I think this was one of the most obvious groups of just, you know exactly what rank these teams are going to finish in. There's not too much to say. Brazil was the best team. They did draw Morocco in their first matchup, and that was a good game, but you could definitely tell that Brazil was just the best team in this group, and they ended up playing like it. Um, Scored the most goals, only allowed 1 goal throughout the entire group stage. So you could definitely tell they were the best team, and they're going to go through and play. I think they're going to go pretty far in this tournament, honestly. Quarterfinals at least, honestly. And then Morocco were great in the last tournament. I thought they'd be great again. Got through the group stage pretty well, pretty easily. Won the 2 games they should have won, and ended up getting a draw against Brazil, which is really impressive for them. I think that draw mattered a lot more to them than obviously Brazil was hoping to win that game. So that was really impressive by Morocco there. And then Scotland was a team I wanted them to get through as a third place team. I really thought they would, but just that -3 goal differential is just not going to cut it whenever you only have 3 points. And so they needed a point against Morocco and Brazil and were not able to get it. So, I mean, they did this to themselves a little bit. It was a tough group, absolutely. but they did this to themselves. And then Haiti, they were the worst team in this group. Like I said, this group was pretty easy to guess. I mean, it wasn't too crazy. Nothing happened really other out of the ordinary. So, pretty easy group to call in my opinion. Going on to Group D though, I was kind of the opposite of the with Group A, where I had in this group Turkey, who was my number 2 in this group, dropping all the way to 4. But I think that's a mistake a lot of people made. Most people had Turkey either winning this group or getting second, and so I'm not like mad about messing this one up. I was glad though that I was correct about Australia going through. They just have that fight in them, man. They will not go down without really like just putting up a fight, and so they performed at a high level in the game against Turkey and played well against Paraguay to get that draw. But you know who the best team in this group is. It's the U.S. A pretty easy group for them, honestly. They just smashed through Paraguay, easily rolled past Australia, and then got to play their bench players in a glorified friendly against Turkey. So pretty easy group for them. And then I'm also impressed that Paraguay won. Whenever they had that red card against Turkey in that game, I was freaking out because the U.S. needed that. You needed Paraguay to either draw or win that game. And so I was kind of freaking out because they were only up by 1 at that point, and that's just such a stupid thing to do, to get a red card, just covering your mouth like that. Like, come on, Almiron. And so I was going insane about that. I was so mad. And then they ended up holding Turkey off and getting the win, so it all worked out. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this group. I was kind of happy I got it wrong because I like seeing Australia and Paraguay impress in the World Cup. So that was fun. And then going on to Group E now. Germany pretty easily won this group. So I think everybody had them winning this group, and certainly I did. They didn't have to do much, honestly, to get past this group. Just had some pretty easy matchups. By far the best team. The real shocker in this group is that the Ivory Coast ended up getting second. Ecuador ended up getting third. And that was one of the big shocks to me that I was so happy about. Just seeing a team like Ivory Coast, I didn't think that they would do much. I thought they'd probably get through as a third place team just because Curaçao's easy points to get. But I was really impressed. They ended up beating up on Ecuador a little bit and getting the points they needed to end up getting second in this group. So I was really happy with that. And then Ecuador, they were just a little bit disappointing, not able to really perform when they needed to at certain points. But they got through, so it doesn't really matter. And then Curaçao, just really impressive by them to be able to get a point, to be able to score on Germany. I think everybody just fell in love with that team. And so I was really glad to see them perform whenever they needed to, even though they weren't able to get out of this group. Just the fact that they were able to score, obviously, like I said, and end up getting a point was just so awesome to see. Now moving on to Group F. I had a little bit different with this. I was I kind of thought Sweden would end up winning this group. Definitely didn't happen. They got third. But it was pretty obvious all 3 of these Netherlands, Japan, and Sweden would move through. Tunisia was just easy points for all of them. Tunisia had a -10 goal differential. And so, yeah, it was pretty obvious that all of these would go through. I just thought that maybe Sweden would kind of punch above their level a little bit. I had this as a bit of a shocker for them to top this group. Obviously, Netherlands were the favorite. And then, so I'm not surprised at all the Netherlands won this group, but I was just kind of hoping for something because I had gone pretty chalk before this whenever I was picking. but all of them went through, so it doesn't really matter. Japan impressed me by, drawing in that first game, and that was honestly one of my favorite games of the tournament. That was really early on, or so far in the tournament. There's still like 3 weeks of the World Cup left. That I love this. I love this sport, and so yeah, I was really glad seeing Japan get the points they needed to get out of this group and get second in this group, so they get a little bit better draw than Sweden. And then, yeah, I kind of feel bad for Tunisia there, though. Just it's too rough for them to get. I mean, this is almost a group of death if the third place team didn't get through this year. And then Group G, I mean, this one literally came down to the wire today of if Iran was going to get through here. They did not. I mean, it was tough. There were so many. I don't think anybody expected as many teams to get 4 points for the third place as there were. There were like seven, I think. Ended up getting let me check. Yeah, 7 teams ended up getting 4 points as the third place team, which I don't think anybody expected. So it's a little tough to see that for a team that only getting 3 points still had a even goal differential. So a little tough to see that happen for them. I was sad about New Zealand. Obviously, I think it would have been fun to see them go through or find a way to have beaten Belgium yesterday, or as I'm filming this yesterday, but on Friday. But it was just pretty obvious seeing Belgium and Egypt go through. I think I had that actually. Yeah, I had this group pretty perfect. Nothing really shocks me, but Belgium definitely underperformed for a lot of this group, actually, now that I'm rethinking about it. They honestly desperately needed that win against New Zealand. And I mean, this group was during their last matches yesterday was really coming down to the wire. So that was really fun to see. It's a little sad that only 2 teams ended up coming out of this group just because of how competitive it was. But that's also a reason there were only 2 teams coming out of this group, because you couldn't really beat up as easily on that fourth place team. And then, so going down to Group H, obviously the big shocker here, Uruguay not advancing. And I mean, I did not have that, obviously. I was not too off, though, on how I thought this group would go. Spain obviously dominating most of it. The fact that they ended up drawing to Cape Verde in their first matchup was honestly really fun to see, and that just gives a lot of teams confidence going into the knockout stages. If they ended up playing Spain, obviously group stage and knockout stage is really different to where it doesn't actually matter, but just seeing a result like that, it's like seeing in the last World Cup whenever Saudi Arabia had beaten Argentina. And so it's just cool to see stuff like that happen. And then the fact that Cape Verde were able to go on, draw Saudi Arabia, draw Uruguay, and get second out of this group with only 3 points. But that just really shows how disappointing Uruguay was in this group. Obviously lost to Spain and then drew against both Cape Verde and Saudi Arabia, only getting 2 points. You just can't perform like that when you're a team like Uruguay, such a historically great team, just performing so poorly that they can't even get through in a group that the second place team only had 3 points. So a little sad to see for them. And then going down to Group I, I think this one was a little easy to pick. Obviously, the 3 teams that went through were the easy ones to pick, but then choosing between Norway and Senegal, I think there were some differences there. I got it correct, though. I had Norway going over Senegal. Senegal really underperformed, though, in their 2 matches. Obviously, they are the AFCON champions, and so I thought they would perform a little bit better to the point, like, I think everybody thought they would perform a little bit better, actually, to the point where they'd be competing more in this group. But it ended up more of just being like France was clearly number one, Norway was clearly number two, and then Senegal were just able to easily win against Iraq and somehow get through with that one of these last as the only third place team with 3 points just because they had a great goal differential. But definitely underperforming by Senegal there. I was really happy to see Norway though. Holland was a monster in this group. Just seeing some of those, like, I don't know if everybody's seen these, but the 3D things of just seeing Holland run at them, insane. Just how big that dude is and how scary he is, just his presence. And so, yeah, Norway was pretty cool to see in this group. I'm very glad that they're advancing. They have one of my favorite players, Odegaard, so I was happy about that. And then, yeah, France dominated this group. Didn't have to do much against Norway just because Norway sat their starters, so you don't entirely know how that would have gone just because maybe there was going to be something different, but it was pretty obvious France is the best team in this group. They're a top 3 team in the world, so I definitely get why Norway sat their starters. A little sad to see, though, just because that would have been fun to see Holland and Odegaard and everybody do that, do their thing against France. But obviously focusing on the knockout stage is a lot more important than a meaningless group stage game. So, yeah, I was glad I got this group right, though. And then going down onto Group J, yeah, I had this group right too. I feel like a lot of these groups though this year, I said this whenever I was picking these, they're pretty obvious. Just with how big this World Cup was this year, instead of 32 teams, 48 teams, there's a big gap between a lot of these teams. Obviously, teams like Curacao made the World Cup, which I love seeing. I was glad they got a point, but it was also made it a little bit easier to pick. And so this group, no different. Argentina dominated, even in a game today where they sat their starters, just destroyed Jordan. And then got 3 points against Austria and Algeria too. And then that Austria and Algeria game, what a way to finish the group stage, honestly. Just insane ending to that game. I cannot believe Austria ended up tying it there at the end. Crazy. And so, yeah, this group was fun. I was glad to see Austria end up getting that spot. The only bad thing is they have to go play Spain now. So it was like, on kind of like, I don't know if they really thought that one through fully on drawing it, but they kind of needed it to get that one of those third place spots a little bit. So I get going as hard as you can. And obviously, getting the knockout stage is a lot more important than who you're facing in the knockout stage. So that was cool to see. And then, yeah, I was glad Algeria made it. Jordan just, I mean, like I said, just pretty easy to pick. The fact that they are there and were able to play, scored 3 goals, impressive. Now, Group K, I wasn't too off on this. Congo and Uzbekistan, I had that correctly, and then just flipped Portugal and Colombia. But those were obviously, it was, I had this group pretty split between Colombia and Portugal, and then Congo and Uzbekistan. So, yeah, I definitely got this group wrong. I'm not mad about it. I don't really mind it. And so, Ronaldo kind of underperformed in his first game a little bit, but he made up for it in that second game, getting 2 goals. So, I don't really care. Messi's the GOAT anyway. Colombia, I was really happy with how they played, though. It's cool seeing a team like them be able to top their group. Now they have a better run than Portugal does, so that's cool to see. And then Congo ended up getting a third place spot, which is really cool. I'm also going to go over the third places. But yeah, I was pretty happy with this group. Nothing too crazy. I was kind of not able to watch all these games anyway, so I don't really have a lot of like insight on stuff for this group a lot, but pretty cool group. So glad to see them 3 go through. And then the very last group, Group L, England, Croatia, Ghana, Panama. England, I was very happy. I mean, I like England more than probably most Americans in terms of soccer, just because, I mean, I like my favorite soccer team is Arsenal, and England obviously has a lot of players that play for Arsenal. So I'm always rooting for like Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice to do well, Noni Madueke. Um, and so, yeah, I was glad to see them top the group. That game versus Croatia was really fun to watch. It was kind of just back and forth a little bit at the start, and then England ended up pulling away. And then I was shocked, obviously, to see England and Ghana draw, but that was really big for Ghana as they were able to get through as a third place team with those 4 points. So that was cool to see, especially as England were still able to top the group. So it didn't end up mattering a whole lot, kind of similar to how Spain had tied Cape Verde, but it doesn't really matter that much. And then Croatia, yeah, they were pretty obviously going to get second in this group for me. They're just, I mean, they're still a great team, but they're just old at this point to where they're not going to be able to fully compete with teams like England at this stage. So, not too shocked at anything in this group. I got this one right with England, Croatia, and Ghana advancing. So, yeah, nothing too crazy. And then for the third place teams, I had I had Czechia obviously getting through because I had picked them as a third place team. They didn't, obviously. That was one of them. Obviously Senegal I had going through. I had Japan as a third place team. I was pretty wrong about a lot of third place teams just because I was wrong about some third places, but I got some things right. Bosnia, Algeria, obviously Senegal, like I just said. Congo. So I wasn't too wrong on a lot of it, but I definitely got some things wrong when it comes to the third place teams. The ones that ended up advancing, I'll go in order. Dominican Republic of Congo, Sweden, Ghana, Ecuador, Bosnia, Algeria, Paraguay, and Senegal. So nothing too crazy on that one. That was probably the hardest thing to pick here. I did probably about half of it of getting it right, but there's just multiple things you have to predict when it comes to go into that. So yeah, I don't mind getting stuff wrong on that. But I think that was everything that went into everything I picked for the group stage. So now let's get into picking the knockout stage. So beginning at the round of 32, I kind of wish this was lined up by schedule, just because there's obviously the round of 32 is obviously first, but I'm going to go through this whole bracket anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And it's obviously a bracket, so it's not going to be perfect on schedule wise, especially because why would it? So, starting here with Germany and Paraguay, there's not going to be much going into that. Germany is the better team here. I don't really think there's much explanation needed to be made there. So I have Germany going through here. Yeah. And then going down to France and Sweden. This one's fun, honestly. Just an early, like, really good matchup. I do have France going through. They are the better team, but I'm really, like, looking forward to this matchup. And it's on, like, Tuesday. So that'll be really something fun to watch. But yeah, I just think the roster of France is just too much heavy power to go out this early. Like, whenever you have Mbappe, Dembele, blanking on names for some reason. I know the French roster, but I'm just blanking right now. I just think that's a little too much for Sweden. I'd love to see Sweden do something. See Gyökeres get a hat trick or something, but I don't think anything's going to end up happening there other than just France taking this one pretty easily, honestly. I guess I'll give actual score predictions for some of these two, at least the round of 32 ones. So I'm going to go back to Germany here first. I'm going to say 4-0. France and Sweden, I'm going to go 3-1. Just because, I mean, I think Sweden will put up a little bit of fight, but I don't know for sure. South Africa versus Canada. This one's the very first game coming out or happening today as this episode is getting released. So, I mean, this one is really fun to see just because it's Canada. Even though they're a host country and everything, they're not the greatest team. I do think they're better than South Africa, and I do think that they're going to win this game. I would not be shocked at all, though, if South Africa make an upset happen here, just because Canada is so inconsistent sometimes. But I think Jesse Marshall push them through here. Give me 2-1, maybe an extra time, honestly. And then, wow, I haven't even looked at this bracket until right now. These matchups are kind of insane. Netherlands, Morocco. This one is tough. So early in this knockout stage, just honestly, two heavy hitters of just, I mean, Morocco obviously went to the semifinals last tournament. Netherlands, always just a team that you're scared of. Eliminated the U.S., my favorite team, last World Cup, in 3-1 in the round of 16. So this one's definitely tough, but I just feel like Netherlands have a little bit more firepower to where I think they'll end up getting through. They also have just more overall tournament experience. I know Morocco obviously do great in the AFCON always and obviously went to the semifinal in the World Cup, but just overall Netherlands as a country just has so much experience, and I think that's going to play into this a little bit, enough to where I think Netherlands will get this one. I'm going to also say 2-1 for this game. So, yeah, I'm not going to really like die on that hill, but I do think that Netherlands will end up taking that game. And then Portugal, Croatia, another huge matchup. This one's kind of tough for me just because I've said many times Croatia is a great team. They're just old, and I just don't know what team will get them just because I know Croatia is going to be able to still beat a lot of teams because of how good they are and how experienced they are. And I do think that they're going to be able to beat Portugal. I just think Portugal do rely a lot on Ronaldo, even though they don't need to. And I think that will end up biting them here just because they rely on him enough to where you're not really letting other players do their thing enough because they have the best midfield in this World Cup. And obviously, I think that they're going to change tactics to what they think is going to work. And maybe they won't rely on Ronaldo, but I don't even think that'll change anything just because I do think Croatia is the better team here. I'm going to go with 1-0 here. With Croatia obviously advancing. It's just, I think Croatia just has too much experience for this to go in Portugal's way. And just, yeah, I mean, that's really all I'm going to say about that. And then Spain and Austria, as much as it'd be fun to see Austria kind of pull something here, Spain's the better team. They're going to go through here. Spain's probably going to make a deep run, at least to the quarterfinal. So yeah, I have them going to the round of 16 pretty easily. Austria, I don't think will make that huge of a impact on that. I'm going to go, honestly, let's just go easy 2-0. And then USA, Bosnia. This one I'm obviously looking forward to. I think the USA is going to crush Bosnia in this game. I'm honestly predicting a 3-0 or like a 4-1, just very lopsided in the USA's favor, especially now that they have a player like Christian Pulisic back. I mean, when you have the LeBron James of soccer, it's going to be pretty easy to win games against teams that you're better than. And I think they're going to win this game pretty easily, especially in a place like San Fran where, I mean, I think really anywhere where the U.S. plays, they're going to have a lot of fans, more than especially Bosnia. But I think that's going to be a fun crowd, and especially setting up for the next game to be in Seattle where the best crowd for the U.S. has been so far. That game is going to be really fun. And I do have their opponent, voice crack. I do have their opponent being Belgium, honestly. They were very disappointing in the group stage, but so was Senegal. And I think Belgium has recovered enough. Really, both of these teams played well in their last group stage game, just beating up on the last place opponent. But I think Belgium is just the better team here. And they're similar to Croatia and just really old. I do think, though, some of their younger players are going to be the reason they get through here, like Leandro Trossard, who had a brace yesterday in that game versus New Zealand. I think he's going to have a huge impact here and knock Belgium into the round of 16. But this is just a crazy matchup for Senegal to have to get in the round of 32 because of how good of a team they've been in recent times. But when you underperform in your group stage to where you get third, this is the matchup you're going to get. So it's a little sad to see. And then another heavy-hitting matchup in this round of 32 is Brazil and Japan. My thing with this is I just don't see a lot of upsets happening in this round of 32. I'd love to see them. I would be so happy to see them. I just don't think they're going to happen, and I don't think it's going to happen here. Brazil they're too fun. Like, they just are so fun. They're such a fun team. I think Vinny Jr. is going to just continue to dominate this World Cup. He's gone crazy so far for them. And maybe Neymar will do something in this game. Maybe he'll get a goal or assist. That'd be really fun. I think everybody would love that. And as much as I'd love to see Japan perform well and get a run in this tournament, I just don't see it happening against Brazil. And then this next matchup is honestly such a fun, second place matchup. Ivory Coast and Norway. Really, really, I'm excited for that game just because Ivory Coast in their own group played really well. I want to see how they perform against one of the best players and one of the most scary players on earth, Erling Haaland. And I don't think they'll be able to do enough against Erling Haaland to stop Norway. And that's why I'm going to go with Norway here. I just think they have too much power in Erling Haaland that a team like Ivory Coast, who don't have players of his level, which most teams don't, it's going to be hard for a team like them to be able to get past Norway here. And so, yeah, I'm going to just go Norway. It's not a ton of reasoning going into it, honestly, but I do have Norway, so yeah. And then Mexico and Ecuador in Mexico City. I think that's all I need to say to have reason to pick Mexico here. I do think they're the better team, honestly, but also, like I just said, it's in Mexico City. That's everything you need. Mexico's advancing in this one. And then England and the Dominican Republic of Congo. Give me England. England definitely underperformed against a team like Ghana, and so I get where some people would be like, oh, they might mess up again, do something like that. But they performed so well in that game against Croatia, ended up performing well against Panama enough to where I just am not worried about how England's going to play in this, to where I do think that England's going to get through this game pretty easily. I've honestly kind of forgotten to do score predictions these last couple of games. It's fine. I'll skip it for those other ones. England, though, I think they'll easily win this one 3-0. And then Argentina and Cape Verde. Cape Verde's magical run of just drawing everybody, I think, will end here. Argentina is going to smash them, honestly. Give me 4 or 5-1, maybe. Maybe give Cape Verde something. I don't know, actually. I'm going to just say 4-0. Just a clean sweep. Argentina is still the best team in the world as of right now until someone proves them wrong. And I just don't know if that's going to happen anytime before the semifinal. So, yeah. I'm going to go Argentina there. And then Australia, Egypt. That is very similar to how Norway and Ivory Coast is, to where I just think this is a really fun second place matchup. And the reasoning I gave for a lot of Australia going through in my group stage predictions is a lot of the reason I'm going to pick them again here. They have so much fight. and they always seem to make a shocker happen. And obviously, it's not too big of a shock to say they'll beat Egypt. Egypt's not like an insanely great team, but they are better than Australia. But I think that just doesn't matter here. I'm going to go Australia. And yeah, I just think they have too much fight in them to go out in the round of 32. Sorry, Egypt. Now to Switzerland, Algeria. I don't know. This one's a little tough. Algeria obviously just played a great game against Austria, but ended up drawing it. And I think the fact that they weren't able to win that game is part of the reason I'm going to pick Switzerland here, is that you can't be allowing 3 goals that easily against a team who's honestly not that insane to me. So I feel like Algeria is going to lose here to Switzerland. Switzerland not even the best team, honestly. They topped the group of life, which wasn't that super hard to do. I mean, really only had to beat Canada. So, I mean, I just don't have a ton of thought into this. I just do think Switzerland's going to win this game. That's honestly all the thought I need, though. And then the last round of 32 matchup, Colombia and Ghana. I'm going to say that Colombia is going to win this one. I think they've shown that they are really ready to play in this World Cup, obviously topping their group over Portugal. And so I'm really excited to see what they're going to be able to keep doing here. And yeah, I think they're going to continue to perform. I think they'll win this one probably 2-1. Maybe Ghana will keep it a little close, but I get Colombia here. So that's all of the round of 32 matchups, and they all happen from today until like July 3rd or something. So I'm really excited to see that. So many fun games happening starting now. I mean, the knockout stages is going to be such a fun just thing happening for the next 3 weeks. And so I'm so excited. It's going to be a lot of just huge. I think there could be upsets, honestly. I mean, I'm not picking any right now. I didn't pick really any upsets in the round of 32. I might pick a little bit in this continuing, but I'm obviously also going to do new picks for each new round, so it doesn't really matter what I pick here. So starting with the round of 16, though, France and Germany. Give me France just because, I don't know, they're just the better team, in my opinion. I think I had this when I was picking the whole tournament at the very start. And I just think that France are better than Germany. Germany this is just a tough draw for them, because I do think Germany could beat a lot of teams, just not France. And so you hate to see it happen so early to a team like Germany, who's really played well. I like a lot of players on Germany, but I think this is a tough draw for them, and I just don't think they'll be able to get past France, and especially on the 4th of July. That's going to be a fun one to watch. Now, Canada, Netherlands. I don't think I have to really talk about this one that much. It's going to be the Netherlands. I mean, Canada getting past South Africa, I said that was a tight game. Canada's really underperformed so far, having to draw against a team like Bosnia. And so I just don't see them doing much, especially against a team like the Netherlands, who I have them going over Morocco in their first game. And the Netherlands also had a really tough group and were able to top it. And I just don't see them stopping against a team like Canada. So that's my reasoning for that. Croatia and Spain. This is definitely the time. I'm going to just say it here. I'm going to go Spain. But like I've been saying with Croatia, I said this again in last predictions. Croatia is, like I've been saying, a team that's just so good, but they're old. And they need a team that's young and just still really good that's going to get them out. This is a tough draw for Croatia to be able to get a team like Spain this early in the knockout stage. And I just don't think they'll be able to put up enough fight against a team like Spain who have players like Lamine Yamal who are just going to be able to cut through their defense. And so, yeah, I have Spain pretty easily. I'm going to honestly go like 3-1 just because I just think Spain's going to be way too much for them. But if there were a team to beat Spain this early, it would be Croatia. I'm going to say that now, that I do think if there were a team to beat Spain between Austria, Portugal, or Croatia, it is Croatia. So definitely wouldn't be insanely shocked if something like that were to happen, but I don't see it. So now I'm moving on to USA Belgium. This is very tough for the USA to get a draw like this early, but Belgium has been struggling very hard so far in this World Cup. And so I just feel like they are going to continue to struggle against a team like the US who are at home in Seattle. And I think the crowd is going to be a big factor in this one. The 12s, give me the USA against a team like Belgium, who obviously Belgium are a great team. They're not playing very well, and the USA are playing very well. They just got too much going for them right now for me to say they're going to go out before the quarterfinals. And so I'm going to pick the USA here. Now to Brazil and Norway. This one's really hard for me to pick because I want Brazil to make a run, but I also really want Norway to make a run. And I do think that players like Holland are such a big force that I think that Norway can power through Brazil. And honestly, I'm going to give this to them. I'd said Brazil's going to make a run, and that run's going to stop here in the round of 16, though, for me, just because I want to see a team like Norway make a good run, at least to the quarterfinals. And so far, this is the first time I'm able to really see it happening. And I think Norway's a team that can do it compared to a lot of other teams around their level. And so there's not a lot of thought going into that of just like insight on how these teams play. I just want to see Norway win just because I think it'd be so fun, and Norway's a great team. Now going on to Mexico versus England. I've obviously seen people talk about this game because it's been pretty obvious that's going to end up happening with both teams being projected to win their groups. And it's such a tough matchup for England going to Mexico City against Mexico. But I just think England's the better team here to where I don't think it matters enough. And so, as cool as it would be to see a team like Mexico beat England, I don't see it happening. And it would be such a great atmosphere. But again, I just don't think that's going to be enough for a team like England who has so much stars that Mexico doesn't have. So, give me England in this one. Now, Argentina, Australia. Argentina honestly have such an easy run. And yeah, they're going to destroy Australia here. As much as I like saying Australia has a lot of fight in them, they don't have enough fight for Australia or for Argentina. And yeah, their run's going to be cut at the round of 16 pretty easily. I don't think I have to say much about that one. Switzerland, Colombia. This one's fun. I think Switzerland could do something here, but I don't see them actually winning this game. I'm going to go with Colombia. People love Colombia. I like Colombia in this one to get them to the quarterfinals to get a matchup versus Argentina, which would be pretty fun. So, yeah, again, not a ton of thought into that. Just I do think Colombia is going to get past Switzerland there. Now, moving on to the quarterfinals. You have France and Netherlands. I think that this one's really, I mean, obviously once you're getting to the quarterfinals, you're just getting great matchup after great matchup. In this one, I could see Netherlands beating France. And honestly, similar to my reasoning of picking Norway over Brazil, Netherlands is a great team. And I think it'd just be more fun to see them beat France. So I'm going to pick Netherlands here. Yeah, that's just all I'm going to say. And that's my same reasoning for the USA beating Spain. USA is going to destroy Spain like 5-0, honestly. Pulisic's going to score a hat trick. I'm being so real right now. That's what I'm picking. My fun picks are ending here, though. England is beating Norway. I like Norway a lot, but similar for my reasoning of England beating Mexico, they just have too many stars to fail against a team that they're better than. And so I see England beating Norway here, especially when Norway's so reliant on one player doing well. Obviously, they have Odegaard too, but he's just not obviously to the level of Holland. And I think when you rely on a player, even though Holland is world class, one of the best players, it's not enough to beat a whole team of where a lot of players are world class, in my opinion, of England. And then now to Argentina and Colombia. I just said this matchup will be fun. Doesn't mean it's going to be a good game, honestly, because Argentina is going to win. They have such an easy pass to the semis, honestly, to the final. I'm spoiling a little bit. And yeah, I think that's really all you need to see from that. With just Argentina just having such an easy run, but obviously they earned it. They topped their group. They got all 9 points. It just went in their favor of getting this kind of matchup in their run to the semifinals, of just not having to play any amazing teams, really. Now going to the semifinals, sadly, as much as I love to see the U.S. win, I just think it'd be me wanting them to win for me picking them here, and I just can't pick them here just because if I do pick them, I don't think it'll end up happening. If I don't pick them, maybe it will. So I'm going to go Netherlands. I think that a game in Dallas like this would be nice for the U.S. and it could help them a lot. But the Netherlands also have a great fan base, and they've already been in Texas. They've already played in Dallas this World Cup. The orange bus is going to be going all the way to New York for me. And then Argentina, England. Argentina's going back to the World Cup final for me. Honestly, I just think England, I've picked a lot in this so far, obviously going to the semifinals. And my reasoning is just because they have so many players, but they don't have Messi. That's all I'm going to say. Even though he's old, he's Messi. And now this brings us to, honestly, like a really great matchup. It's a rematch of the quarterfinals last World Cup between Netherlands and Argentina, where there was so much drama, there was a huge fight in that game, which is really fun to watch. And I think it's going to go the other way this time. Give me Netherlands. I just think it's so hard to repeat in the World Cup. Obviously, that experience is going to help Argentina a lot. But I think you do, as much as you don't think you're going to get complacent, you are compared to a team who hasn't won something, I feel like, to the point where I think Netherlands will end up getting the win here and getting their very first World Cup win. So I have Netherlands here. And yeah, it was fun. I'm excited to keep doing bracket predictions as this World Cup goes on. Really all my real predictions are in this round of 32 spot, just because obviously everything after that subject to change. So, but that was Netherlands as of right now, as of right out of the group stage. Netherlands are my World Cup champions. Now moving on to a sport a lot more Americans are familiar with, football, real football. And I'm going to go with AFC South record predictions today. The reason I'm doing the AFC South and the reason I'll start with the reason I'm doing record predictions so early is that we're about the 10 weeks or so, give or take, from the season starting, which gives me about a week for each division, as well as a little leeway to do other stuff. Yeah, I wanted to start with the AFC South. My favorite team is the Texans. I've assigned Davis Mills jersey just behind me, and I've assigned Derek Stingley Jr. jersey right here. So obviously take my opinions with a grain of salt when it comes to the Texans because I have them beating the Bills week 1, beating the Bengals week 2, beating the Colts week 3, beating the Cowboys week 5 or week 4. I keep skipping weeks. Beating the Titans week 5. Now, this is the first matchup where I'm like really debating on where to go just because it is so hard once you're already 5-0 to keep continuing that streak. And as much as like I like the matchups and all these for the Texans to be able to say, "Oh, I think they're going to go 17-0" just because of how great the Texans are, how great their defense is, it is hard to pick your team to win every game just cuz you know that's not going to happen. And the Texans lose to worse teams every year. They lose at least one game to an awful team, and I think that awful team is going to be the Jags in Jacksonville. Or actually in London. I forgot about that. It's in London. That's going to hurt the Texans a little bit, and I'm a little scared that might hurt the Texans against the Giants, but also the Giants kind of suck. So I'm going to go Texans again in that game. Starting 6-1 going into the bye week would honestly be a dream for me as a Texans fan. But I do think they're going to lose a game out of the bye week just because, again, as much as I think each of these matchups look really good for the Texans, it's hard to just consistently win, especially out of the bye week going away to the LA. It's going to be a little hard. Easily, though, beating the Browns. It's the Browns. Easily beating the Colts. Now, I am going to give this to the Ravens. Obviously, the Texans beat the Ravens last year, but that was without Lamar Jackson and a lot of stuff. And the Ravens, honestly, own the Texans. Now they don't have Harbaugh, so that might play a factor a lot in... It might be a very different Ravens team. And also a lot of talks about Lamar maybe not staying with the Ravens for too many years longer. Might come into play a little bit later in the season in a game like Week 12. You never know. But I am going to give it to the Ravens just because the Ravens always perform well against the Texans, and that's a tough game. But I am going to pick the Texans now again to win 3 more straight. So, I mean, still getting me as a very hopeful Texans fan. And I do think they're going to end their season with a better record than last year, obviously winning that game against the Titans. Yeah, not too much. I mean, obviously the Titans are one of the worst teams in the NFL. I hate their new logo, honestly. It sucks compared to the old one. I miss their old one now. Please go back to it. Please. I also hate that they're using the Texans blue. That is Houston blue, H-Town blue. Don't use that. Come on. And then I'm going to say the Texans are going to lose one of these games versus the Eagles or Packers. I don't know exactly which one. I'll just say the Eagles for now, but the Texans will win the other one. They'll get a better record than they had last year. Last year they were 12-5. I think they'll go 13-4 this year. I'm not mad at any of these losses except for the Jags game. I hate the Jags. But that is who I'm picking. This is my record prediction for the Texans this year. I think Stroud's going to have a great year, honestly. Stroud is going to bounce back. Tank Dell's back finally. So happy about that. I love Tank Dell. I'm really excited to see what this Texans defense can do. And I think 13-4 is pretty reasonable, honestly. Even as a Texans fan, I think saying that's not too crazy. Now moving on to the Jags. I obviously picked the Jags in that game, and I obviously picked the Texans in that game. So obviously 1-1 off the start. Give me Jags versus the Browns week 1. It's the Browns. I might pick the Browns to go 0-17 when I do theirs. I don't know when I'm going to do AFC North. Maybe next week. I might do the AFC entirety first, so maybe next week. But yeah, give me the Jags over the Browns. Give me the Broncos over the Jags. Give me the Patriots over the Jags. Ooh, and the Jags have a rough run. I am going to give them a win over the Bengals, though. Obviously, the Bengals now, in both games that I've had them in, I've given the other team the win. But I just think that the Jags are not going to go on a 4-game losing streak because I do have them losing to the Eagles here. And I just think that's a little too much for the Jags because obviously they're not an awful team. They're just not going to be able to beat some of these teams that are better than them, like the Broncos, like the Patriots, like the Eagles. And so I just think it's a little too much for them. They obviously get the bye week before or after the London game to be able to rest well to come back home against the Colts. And I think the Jags will win that game. The Colts, I think, are just going to regress a lot this year. They were obviously fighting for a playoff spot last year for so long. They looked like they were going to get one by the midway point last season pretty easily, and then they just collapsed after the injury of Daniel Jones. And I just don't think they're going to be able to find the magic they had in the first half of last season to be able to make the playoffs. And so I think the Jags will be able to beat them there. Ravens, pick them pretty easily. Jags over Titans. I honestly think the Titans might go 0-6 in the division. Maybe squeak out a win against the Colts, but we'll get there whenever we get to those games. Yeah, I do think that you will see the Jags kind of be a little bit mid this year, but I think they're going to end up with a good record because I have them kind of winning these 4 straight. I could maybe swap this game with the Bears, just because obviously the Bears are a great team, but I don't know. I think the Jags will pull off an upset there to be able to go 8-6. I do think the Cowboys are going to beat them though, and then I do think though that they're going to end up 9-8 is what I'll go with. I'll go with the Colts getting a last week spoiler, maybe to knock the Jags out of the playoffs, just because I think it'd be funny. So this is what I'm going to go with. Obviously for division stuff, still the Texans losing to the Jags sadly in week 6, but beating the Jags in week 15. The Jags sweeping the Titans and splitting with the Colts. Now as we move to the Colts, I'm obviously going to match these up. I had the Texans, I think, sweeping the Colts here. So now that everything's matched up on that, the Colts are 1-3 starting. Gonna be 1-4, 1-5. Give them a win against the Commanders. I don't know. The Commanders, I feel like, are gonna be pretty mid this year, pretty bad, honestly. I don't know. I just don't see them performing like they did 2 years ago. Obviously, I don't think anybody's expecting them to do something like that. But yeah, I think the Colts will be able to squeak out a win. I think the Steelers will beat them there. And I'm going to go with, honestly, the Colts and Titans going home and home with their wins to give the Colts, as of right now, 3-7 of where I'm at. And then Vikings, I think, will beat them. Cowboys, I think, will beat them. But they'll beat the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to be awful this year. And so, yeah, I'm going to give the Colts that win. Now going into week 12, though, against the Giants, I'm going to say Harbaugh is going to make a difference for the Giants, though. I mean, I don't think they're going to be insane. They're going to be better than the Colts, though. So are the Eagles. So are the Bengals. And now the Browns are now 0-3 in my predictions of what I've picked. But 5-12 for the Colts, I don't think that's too crazy to pick just because they were so awful in the second half of last season. They didn't really improve, in my opinion, in this offseason. And so I'm going to have them going 5-12 here. I don't think that's too crazy to say. Now, lastly, Tennessee Titans. Worst team in the league, honestly. Still better than the Jets. Jets suck. Let me fix these, though. I had the Jags, I think, sweeping, and then I had home and home. So now starting 2-4 for the Titans, I think they'd be pretty happy with that. Having 2 wins already on the season without me even picking other games. They're losing the Eagles, though. They're losing the Giants, though. Losing the Ravens, though. I don't know. I think I'm going to give the Browns a win, though. I think I'm going to have to give the Browns a win. I just feel bad picking the Browns 0-4 before I even get to the Browns on my predictions. Bengals, I'm also giving a win to 2-9 so far for the Titans of what I'm picking. I don't know. The Titans are just so bad. I want to see Cam Ward do well. I want to see some of the players on the Titans do well. I hate the Titans, though. And I also just don't think it's far-fetched to say they're going to suck this year. Also losing to the Cowboys. Also losing the Commanders and the Lions. They'll beat the Raiders, though. The Raiders are pretty awful, too. To where that's not a game I'm too crazy on caring too much about of picking for the Titans. I do think they're going to upset the Steelers and go 4-13. I think they'd be a little bit happy with that record. I don't know. I just don't feel like the Titans are going to be able to really take a big step this season to the point where they're fighting for playoffs or anything like that. And obviously that's a better record than they had last year, going 3-14. So it is a step, just not a huge one. And I'm not going to really feel bad about picking this for them, just because they have a tough schedule. The AFC South does not have super easy divisional. The way their schedule matches up against other divisions, I don't think it's too easy for them this year, except for the Texans, because the Texans are the best team in the league. So yeah, I think this is my picks. So Texans 13-4, Jags 9-8, Colts 5-12, and the Titans 4-13. And with that, I am going to get out of here for this episode. Make sure to be back next week for my round of 16 predictions for the World Cup. And I'm going to do AFC North next week for the divisions. So tune in next week. I'm Logan. This was Logan Talk Sports. Goodbye.